Good day, everyone. This is Chapter 8 Information Technology prepared by Group 5. Information Technology.
Humans are surrounded on all sides by technology, claiming to supply information. These are the television, smartphones, and other internet devices. So, these are the things that we are using these days to gather information and communicate. Information, word, is a combination of sounds that represent something. According to Chason 2006 and Ben Naime 2005, words are informed because they carry information. They communicate meaning. It is not only in the technologies we can get information, but also in words, in the newspaper, radio, gossips, and many more.
So my topic is all about the role of language. Ability to give or make sense of nature. For the ancient Greeks, language was an object worthy of admiration. Words have power. Science. From the Latin word sire, meaning to know, one kind of knowledge the Greeks wanted to understand. So, we all know that language is very important in our society because through language, we communicate with the world, define our identity, express our history and culture. So the Greeks has fascination about and wonder at the power of words and language. So they have a lot of questions in mind. Where does the words of power came from? Is it from the speaker or the receiver? The receiver is the one who listens to the speaker. So it is said that the speaker can use same words over and over again to talk to 10, 100, or thousands of people separately or at the same time. So ana sila na pwede ko no ang speaker magbalik-balik sa iyang mga words kay bisan pagbalik-balik ko na nimo siya, di man japon mawala ang meaning ana, mura man japon na siya ang meaning. Diba? So bisan pag kinsa na mo ka istorya, bisan pag imong ka istorya imong friend, so gistorya ka niya about ani nga topic. So sunod na po gistorya si mong friend na po dai na po imong gistorya ani nga topic. Pwede ra siya because mura sa man japon na siya, di man japon nawala iyang meaning. So let's proceed. The first philosophers, as they trashed about groping for and seeking a unifying principle, nature sometimes hit upon things such as fire or water. The many seemingly different things in the natural world must have a unifying factor. There was an insight to be understood. They sought for the metaposes, literary meaning after nature. So Plato's principle of one of the many refers to the underlying unity among diverse beings in the natural world. There is a common intrinsic nature shared by different objects which determines their real sense. Biologists devised a way to illustrate this principle using a system differentiating between genus and species. So basically, it states that the problem of the one and the many begins from the assumption that the universe is one thing. Because it is one thing, there must be one unifying aspect behind everything. This aspect could be material, such as water or air, or it could be divine, such as the Christian or the concepts of God. So in the 21st century, we are aware more than ever that there is rich diversity in nature which technology has allowed us to discover. Banwa Natural Science 2008. 21st century. So when we talk about the 21st century, technology in the modern world is the fruit of science because the scientific method help people discover how nature behaves, that we're able to control nature with technology. So in the 21st century, ang technology na ga-control sa atua because it is easier to move when there is technology. diba? Na mas mapaisip pa nato atong life because of the technology. But sometimes we are being abusive, diba? Di na magpahuway because of technology, but of course, medyo limitation ang tanan. So, more to akong topic. So, that is all about the role of language. I hope.
Mathematics as the language of nature. So let's start. So mathematics as the language of nature. Technology in the modern world is the fruit of science because the scientific method helped people discover how nature behaves. They are able to control nature with technology. A more accurate statement is, since people have discovered the law and language of nature, they can develop technology that uses these laws and language of their benefit. This language is, of course, mathematics, the great contribution of Isaac Newton. Nature can understood because it speaks in the language of mathematics, and the human brain, to a certain extent, can comprehend this language. Wigner, 1960. Unfortunately, this fact is not always appreciated because the first computer was made in 1945 that has weighed more than 35 tons and also requires 1,500 square feet. Computers has a hardware that composes of CPU, which is central processing unit, if you do not know, which is the brain of a computer. The input and output devices, which are the keyboard, monitors, and etc. The memory, which differs from two, the random access memory and a RAM, and the read-only memory or ROM. The difference between storage and memory is that storage has a large capacity than memory. Buses is a path along which bits are transmitted. The stored program concept in 1949 defined by Dr. John von Neumann that would greatly affected the development of nowadays computer. Most CPUs have built in a few hundreds of standards operations. Also, a computer program is constructed by a combination of different instruction codes. Every instruction should go through two phases of processing, which is the fetch and execute. So we're going deeper in software. Programming is the way to generate program. Assembly language is created to help human instruction CPU to work by using a tool called assembler. Assembly language programming is still too complicated for general uses. A high language is required to close the gap between human and computers. Machine language program has no application nowadays, and higher language programming is for large scale program. So application software is developed to fulfill certain needs of users, which is kita, either customized software or packaged software. System software lasts primarily for the computer itself. Operating system master control program. When power up, no control is possible to the hard disk to load the OS.
technological world. It describes a world that is based in science and applied to everyday life to solve problems. Now, let us define technological world. It is the ability to think and conceptually comprehend nature, and the principles it follows eventually leads to science. Even in ancient times, Western thinkers harnessed the forces of nature after understanding them better. Technology is taking over our world. We live in an age where most, if not all of us, use technological devices all day, every day. From mobile phones to iPods to laptops and TVs, we're constantly using technology. There are even forms of technology that we use during our sleep, fitness, watches that track our sleep, and flights. Lost in Antiquity is the first sailing vessel that worked through the power of the wheel. Let me give a brief background about the first sailing vessel. The ancient Egyptians are thought to have introduced one of the first types of sailing vessel back in 3400 BC. These ships were made of wood from acacia or sycamore trees and featured a single mast with a square sail which powered the ship alongside a series of oars. The only problem with using these types of wood is that only short lengths could be cut from 2900 BC. Cedar wood was used from which longer planks. Similarly, it was never recorded when the early people realized that fire has its own power and energy. Not all early inventions are lost in time. However, Hero of Alexandria, for instance, would invent a primitive steam engine in the 1st century by Paul Davis, 1990. Figure 3.1. Ancient scribe working at his desk. A scribe is a person who serves as a professional copyist, especially one who made copies of manuscripts before the invention of automatic printing. The profession of the scribe, previously widespread across cultures, lost most of its prominence and status with the advent of the printing press. The work of scribes can involve copying manuscripts and other texts as well as secretarial and administrative duties such as the taking of dictation and keeping of business, judicial, and historical records of kings, nobles, temples, and cities.
I am going to report about the printing press and beyond. Okay? So it has been said that the power of eidos or idea will be witnessed in the West. So the ancient fascination with language leads to the preservation of the words, which means it leads to printing. So the importance of the word leads hand copying to printing, from hand copying, which is a laborious job, to printing, which is way easier than hand copying. So it's very understandable and very concise. Okay, so in this slide you can see books, magazines, posters, and newspapers. So I want you to think about these products for 5 seconds. Okay? Okay, so these are called printed media, and this wouldn't be possible without this invention. So this is a printing press, and it is mainly constructed with wood. Okay, you can see there's a lot of wood because it's mainly constructed out of wood. Okay, so let's go to the next slide. Okay, this wouldn't be possible, or the printing press wouldn't be possible without this great inventor. So he is Johann Gutenberg, and he is a German inventor. He was born in 1398. So he invented the printing press in 1450. So this man right here is a great man because he invented the printing press, which made our lives easier. Okay, so printing press. it has been said that it would transform cultures. So it's very visible right now that because of the printed materials, it transformed our cultures, our traditions, our everything. Okay, so it has been said also that it is the beginning of a true revolution. It's right. It has been created in the 15th century, and this invention allowed words and scientific ideas to establish a view of nature anchored in scholarly works and studies. So it's very understandable, right? Okay, so let's go to the next slide. So how does the printing press work? So just like what I've said earlier, it is mainly constructed out of wood, and letters were carved onto movable keys coated with ink. So these movable keys right here, as you can see in this picture, it can be reused over and over again. So, diba? It's so visible right here that Johann Gutenberg is very creative. Okay, let's go to next slide. So Johann Gutenberg mixed oil and soap together to make ink. In 1456, he made 180 copies of the first printed book, a Bible. Only 49 copies of these Bibles survive today. The last time a Gutenberg Bible sold, it went $2.4 million. So he was very creative, right? Imagine he mixed oil and soap together to make ink. Very creative from that. And take note, his first printed book is the Bible. Okay? So this is the Gutenberg Bible. So let's go to the effects of the printing press. So the effects of the printing press in religion. So the printing press helped to spread Catholicism. So because in the past, when the printing press wasn't invented yet, the Bible were only in the church. So Bible wasn't in the houses because it's very expensive. Because in the past, only a person copies the Bible. So it's a very laborious job. So you can't imagine how expensive that is. So because the printing press was invented, it spread new ideas about religion, and people have their own copy of the Bible, so they don't have to go to the church just to read the Bible, because in the first place they can buy it now because it's way much cheaper because the printing press was invented already. Okay, let's go to the next slide. So its effects to science. So new and radical ideas were created. Acquire more information in books. Transmission of different and new information. So it's very understandable, and we can see it today, really, because we personally acquire information in our books that we've read, right? And because of that, it transformed different ideas and new information. So because there are a lot of books, we can read a lot of perspectives and opinions about this topic in science, right? So let's go to the next slide. Thought. It's a fact, the printing press effects in their thought. Okay, so recording and transferring information is easier. Okay, records are permanently saved. It is because in the past, only those important details were saved, but now we can save even whatever it is because printing is easier than hand copying. Ideas spread easier and quicker because it's already in the books, in the newspaper, in the posters. Scientists are able to use extensive research records. Okay, so in the next slide, it's a fact to the social classes. So in the past, upper class can only afford handwritten books. So that's only in the past. But now, we can afford, even in the poor, the middle class, it's wealthy, we can afford the books already because it's cheaper. Okay, because it's not hand copying anymore. It's printing already. So imagine how easy our life is with the printing press, right? It really made our lives easier.
Good day, everyone. I am Canadone Lagos, and at this point of time, we will discuss about the World Wide Web, or the WWW, or simply the web. The World Wide Web was invented by Sir Tim Berners-Lee, a British scientist working at CERN way back in 1989. It was created as a way of addressing data processing and information sharing needs among scientists for the European Organization for Nuclear Research, or CERN. This was the next computer used by Sir Tim Berners-Lee at CERN, which became the first web server. Before the web, information were wrote by hand and typed on typewriters. Sometimes they write letters and sent it to mailbox and waited days, weeks, or months for a reply. In the world before the web, the scientists spent a lot of time waiting, which causes a lot of delay in their work. So imagine the struggle of the scientists in the pre-web period. The World Wide Web, commonly referred to as the web, is a system of interlinked hypertext documents accessed through the internet. It enables the retrieval and display of text and media to your computer. For instance, when you opened a website like google.com for information, you can see a lot of hypertext there, the ones that are colored in blue. And when you click it, it will navigate to another page and it will display another information. So that is how the web works. It allows the individuals to link their documents together to create a web of interconnected documents.
Social media encourages building a community of like-minded people. The easy access to personal information makes one susceptible to online predation, identity theft, and scamming, among others. Considering the many benefits we get from these technologies, we must also be responsible in utilizing them, harming others and ourselves. So nowadays, many of us are using social media. Because of this, we can gather information from the internet easily. And also by the use of social media, we can easily communicate to others even though you are far from each other. But despite how good social media is, there are also a bad effects on using social media apps, like spreading of fake news, cyberbullying, and also being distracted at school or work, and many more. So as a student, we should balance our time in using social media and enjoy more things in reality.